Our work is very kind of intensive and very short-term kind of crisis intervention work. But we're a very new team. We've only been up and running for just over 2.5 years, with the focus in our local authority in West Sussex to really kind of consider the needs of children being with their families rather than being kind of looked after.
Hi Aidan, come in.
Our identification of a kind of an area of research that we wanted to look at as a team was very much a team decision. The team came up with 2 particular issues that we really wanted to look at. One of those was about provision of short-term services and what's effective, and the other was attachment and loss. And we were particularly interested in attachment.
At the beginning of the research, we were asked by the managers to identify cases within the team that we'd worked on where there were kind of issues of attachment. So we all kind of gave names of families, and by a selection process, 2 of the families that I'd worked with came out.
What we found was that the families that we were working with, children with in adolescent years, there was quite a high number where there were clearly attachment issues in the family that were unresolved, that were obviously exacerbating any relationship difficulties within the family, and that actually what we were finding that we were struggling in some cases to understand how we best work with these families in the short term and maintain long-term change for these families.
It was very exciting because we'd not, being such a new team, we had focused solely on our kind of service provision. So it was very exciting to then kind of have the opportunity to do research based on what we were doing. I suppose I was a little bit scared about how much time it would take up, being very busy and caseloads and things. So it was a great idea, but I was very concerned about how much time it would take up.
And it was only once we'd begun to look at how we were going to take it forward as a team that the opportunity came up that one of our assistant social workers in our team had left us to go and do a master's degree, although was working part-time for us during the first year of her master's. And she had a dissertation that she had to do, and she kind of was talking about it with us about, well, what am I going to do, what might be interesting. And I think we kind of jumped on that opportunity and said, well, we've come up with this really good idea.
Rachel came to me and said, look, we're thinking of looking at this topic as a team, and are you interested in looking at it kind of, you know, for your dissertation? And attachment disorder was something that I was really interested in, so I was really kind of thinking, yeah, this is going to be great, you know, this is going to be something that I can really kind of, you know, get my teeth into.
She was really interested as well, because obviously having worked in the team and seeing that this was a really valuable piece of work, and focused her dissertation on exactly the kind of research question we'd identified.
I think it really helped that I had been an assistant social worker, so I had very good working relationships with all of the team members because I'd worked in both teams. I'd worked in the North team and the South team. So that was probably easier for me in terms of being able to initially have those conversations with them, and they trusted me.
I mean, although there wasn't any problems today, I think what I'm going to do is next week just go back and see what they say about it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
So I think it worked to my advantage, but obviously there was a dilemma in that doing research is very different to being a practitioner. So I had to be quite, you know, clear in my roles and quite boundaried in my roles as well.
I think some of the challenges for us being a real team was about time restraints for staff, about people being able to find the time to really do the amount of work that we wanted to make this a really good piece of work that was going to be valuable for our service.
Well, basically there's a lot of information about attachment theory, attachment disorders. There's also quite a lot of studies that show kind of specific work that's been done, but it tends to focus on early prevention with families or kind of later therapeutic treatment. It doesn't document kind of short-term intervention, and that was really the bit that I was looking at in terms of the family resource team. So in that way it was quite unique, because I didn't find any other evidence that specifically looked at short-term preventive intervention with families where there are attachment difficulties.
And Clear's been able to take that forward. Her dissertation is now completed, and only last 2 weeks ago I think she handed it in, and I've read it, and the detail and the information that we're going to get from that to really think about our practice, to think about how we develop as a service, how we might have to change, is going to be invaluable really when we're looking at attachment and how we work with those families. So a really great opportunity for us that we had Cleo to take that piece on board, but it hasn't meant that the team have been isolated as a result, although that they haven't had a part to play, because they have, because her dissertation has included interviewing of practitioners.
Cleo interviewed me for about an hour and a half per family, asking a series of questions that kind of brought out possible kind of attachment difficulties, attachment issues, attachment behaviours that that kind of the young person was exhibiting. So that in itself was very useful, because it gave me the opportunity to talk about a specific issue rather than the kind of the general issue with the family, which was kind of the focus of my work with them.
Just doing the process of becoming a real team and getting people to really think about evidence in their practice, about how research can improve our understanding. That helped people's thinking actually, yes, we don't just carry on a day-to-day basis as practitioners doing what we think we know works. Actually, it really benefits our practice if we go away and we look into other ideas and validate what we're doing.
What did I learn? I learned that research is very important. I learned a lot about my involvement with the family and how I had ended my work with them. From that, what I did was just took some time out to talk to the managers about how we end work, because one of the families I'd worked with specifically had said, you know, we wanted more involvement at the end of the work rather than just us pulling out, for us to spend some extra time with them, offering a less intensive service, but being there for them.
It's kind of developed my research skills, I guess. But in terms of the team, I think the recommendations that I've made within the piece of research will hopefully be taken forward and adapted into the kind of daily practice. That's my hope, and I'm confident that that's what will happen, because they're very kind of committed and dedicated to, you know, learning and developing knowledge.
Cleo going off and doing the dissertation, although it has kind of taken away some of the focus on the research from the team, now it's done and completed. I think there'll be a lot of beneficial effect for the team to consider their practice and to use some what she's come out of it, and to help them recognise that actually research has got a really important part to play in our work.